Hi, everybody. Welcome. My name is Kimberly Lebbing. Welcome to my group. If you're here and this is the first live that you've seen from me, I want to welcome you. I am doing lives every Wednesday, something to help you in your business and your personal growth. And today, I am going to be talking about 5 tips to cultivate a money mindset. So money has been the source of grief for so many people. So if you think about it, it's the number one reason people get divorced. It is the reason why, you have some people that end up in a depressed state or anxiety about money. There's so many things that it affects. And yet, if you think about it, it's a little, it's paper. It's paper. It's just an exchange of energy. It really is. So it's an exchange. So I give money to you because you're giving me a service or vice versa. It's nothing more than that. Yet we have all these things around money that really muck up our ability to make it. So I want to give you these steps. And this is something that I have struggled with my entire life. And I now know why, because I really had to dig deep to find that out. But I want you, so the very, very, very first step is if you are broke, and by the way, use the word broke, don't use the word poor, use the word broke, because broke is temporary, and that helps your brain. Ask why. Ask why. Ask yourself why. Pull out your journal. Ask yourself why. Are there behaviors that you're doing that aren't serving you? Do you maybe make money and then all of a sudden you find yourself spending the same amount because you're sabotaging the money that you've made? Are there patterns that you're doing, behaviors? Do you have, how were your parents? Think about that. How was their money mindset? Were they also, did they struggle with money? Did they fight about money? So go in and really dig deep on why you do the behaviors that you do or why you might be struggling. Because it's not until we're aware of what the problem is that we are able to move forward and correct it. This is really huge. I know for me, I had something I had struggles in the past with my parents for sure. We had, and some of it was things that were just ingrained in me because my parents bought a nice, like they were fairly successful, middle class success, okay, but fairly successful. They had a few, of their own businesses. My dad was actually a very successful farmer in a small town and did really well. He sold the farm. We bought this huge, huge home. And then 1 year later, they got divorced. Well, I had put that in my brain because then I saw it again, that you can't have a good family and a good business. So I had this thing on one side and this on another. And in my adult life, that's how it was showing up for me. So it wasn't until I dug in and was able to release some of the negative emotions that were around that I was able to move forward in my businesses that I have. And that was a huge shift. And I honestly didn't do that until I got into timeline therapy, which is something that I do, where you can easily, effortlessly release emotions and have someone help you connect the dots of what it is that's holding you back. So asking why is huge, huge, huge. Number 2 is really choosing your words wisely. So I mentioned this before. You don't want to tell people or say that you're poor. Don't use those words. Use the words broke instead if you need to. Honestly, it'd be better not to say it at all, but if you need to, broke is temporary, where poor is kind of a state of mind, and that's where people stay stuck. So with anything, you always want to say it in the way that you want it, not what you don't want it. So when talking to your kids, I mentioned the way I grew up. Like if you're talking to your kids, or you grew up this way and you heard we can't afford it, that is negatively impacting you and your kids, even you saying it and then your kids hearing it, that you don't have enough. And let's face it, we do. You could, so whatever it is, you could work towards it. You can ask questions of yourself of how can we afford this? You can even tell, like, let's say your kids want something, I don't know what it is. They want a new car. I have teenagers. They want a brand new car. Let's say it's a Ferrari. Well, I would turn back and say, I don't know that I wouldn't say I can't afford it. I would ask them, well, how can you afford that? How could you get that? How could we instead? So changing the patterns of what you're saying, even if you are in a desperate state, don't tie it back to money. Don't tie it back to I can't afford it. Tie it back to, well, I'm choosing to do this instead. Or, well, we're going to, just make the best of whatever circumstances you're in and choose the positive words to say instead. So that will help you cultivate a better mindset, but really paying attention to how you're talking about money and what thoughts are going on in your head, because that's keeping you stuck. That's keeping you stuck. So if you're thinking about that, and I'm going to keep giving you some more tips to help you break out of that mindset. Number 3 is, so usually if we are in let's say we're broke, or we're in a state where we're really wanting to create more success, more money coming in our lives, a lot of times we are around people who are like us, so they may be struggling too. So you know that you become like the 5 people that you're around the most. How do you break out of that? You don't have like wealthy friends or billionaire friends. Well, we do, because you can follow YouTubers, you can download books, and you can read about what these people are doing to be successful and have that money mindset. So if you're reading growth, money growth kinds of books, that's going to help you get into that type of mindset. Even though you're not physically surrounded by those people, you can be feeding that into your brain so that you have a better mindset about it. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad, any kind of Robert Kiyosaki book is amazing. And I've heard several people say, read all his books, read all of his books. I've read a few. I've got a lot more to go. He's got tons of them out there. But that's a good place to start. Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, is a classic. You can find it on audio. Well, any of these you can find on audio, but it's a great listen to. I've listened to it several times. There's a book called Secrets of Six-Figure Women. I thought, since we have women entrepreneurs in here, that's a great book that I read years ago. And it's an amazing read as well. So there's so many out there. So just search. Spend 30 minutes a day. Growing your mind towards that success money mindset so that you can have success. 4 is affirmations. So these are out there. There's tons of them out there. I was just looking, I just did a quick search before I hopped on there just to see. Just be sure that you're doing affirmations when you search that resonate with you. If it doesn't land well for you, your unconscious mind is probably not ready to hear it. So just be aware of that. It could be one that you do later, but there's so many lists out there. Make sure that they are stated in the positive, saying what you want, not what you don't want. So pay attention to those words. If they say, I am not broke, your focus is on being broke. So make sure that they're stated in a way that says what you want, not what you don't want. Even if it says the word not in front of it, your unconscious brain doesn't hear that. It just sees that negative word. So, and that applies to everything, by the way, but make sure that you are focusing on the positive whenever you're doing affirmations. And I found a few, honestly, that really resonated with me this morning as I was looking up. Let me see in my notes. I am financially thriving. I spend money wisely. I am grateful for all the money I've received. I am a giver. Like, there's just so many things that you can do to cultivate that. And if you want to take it a step further, you can do, I talk about this a lot, about empowering questions. How can I cultivate a better money mindset? Say that to yourself in the morning. Write it on a card and just stick it near your desk and ask yourself, how can I create abundance in my business? This will get your brain into seeking mode so that you will start looking for solutions rather than focusing on the problem, which is what we do kind of naturally, right? We always, we're always talking about, oh, I'm broke, or, oh, I don't know where I'm going to get my next client, or I don't know where I'm going to get my next customer, whatever that is. But if we focus on asking ourselves really good questions, we can move forward, and our brain will do the work for us because we're asking it the right questions. So my very last one, number 5, is something that might be a little controversial, but it's really huge. And this is giving. So giving for an abundant mindset. And this is something, I'm a Christian and been told for years, give to the church, tithe, which is, whatever your interpretation of that is. In my mind, it's 10% of whatever I bring in. This is huge. This is really huge, because if you are, and this is, not only is this something that, and I believe this is what, God tells us to do. So I want to do it before that, but it's really, really interesting. I really got curious about the thinking behind this, and not that I know God's thoughts, because I don't. But if you think about the psychology of it, because whenever we give, we're in an abundant mindset. We're not scarcity thinking when we're giving whatever we have back. So it's a huge shift. It is very hard. It can be hard to do if you haven't done it before. But if you can shift your mindset and start giving, and start wherever you want to start. I followed for a long time. There was a coach that I followed, and I think he called it Wealth Wednesday, Ray Higdon, if you've ever followed him. And he would encourage people to give, even if it was only $1 or $5. Now, this does not work in the COVID world, but what we would do, I would take my son with me. We'd go to Walmart or Walgreens or somewhere, and we would put cash inside like a formula container or diapers, and shove it into the thing. And so whoever bought that thing when they got home would find some cash. So sometimes it was only $1, sometimes it was $5, sometimes it was a $20 bill, whatever it was that I could afford at the time. Really, really cool thing to do. It was a little bit tough, even pre-COVID, though, to think that through of, oh, it's Wednesday, I got to go out and find a place where I can, because I wasn't always out and about. But getting into that, so what I do now is I track what I have coming in and write it down, and then I make sure that before bills are paid, before any of that is done, that I'm giving first, and that is helping my mindset change into more abundant thinking. So ponder that a little bit. And I know that's not an easy one, especially if you are struggling with getting your monthly bills paid, or struggling in your business. You're like, oh, I need to keep all of it for me. But it totally, whether you're Christian or not, if you think about how giving that back, what that does for your brain, you're going to end up getting more. It just helps with the abundance mindset. So that's what I've got today. I hope you got value. Hope you found this helpful. Please invite your friends into this group. I'm just getting this group going again, and would love to see more people in it as I keep adding more trainings and help into the group. So thanks so much for listening.